Have you been told that your health challenges, whatever they may be, whether you're exhausted, hormone imbalances, cancer, heart disease, are related to your genes? Have you been told or led to believe that there's nothing you can do about it because that's the way you're programmed, that's the way your genes leave you? If so, and you're confused about the role that genetic testing and knowing your genetics plays in helping you or your clients, if you're a practitioner, to get healthier, to overcome these challenges, this episode is for you. Hello and welcome back. I'm Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo, and I'm on a mission to change our broken disease management system into a true healthcare system and to change the lives of millions of people to help them become as healthy and as happy and as whole as they can be. So let's just jump in and get started. So what's the deal with genes, right? We hear about, oh, my mom had heart disease, my dad had cancer, my uncle and aunt had diabetes, therefore I'm going to be that way. And that cannot be further from the truth. What we now know is that yes, genes are effective. Genes allow you to know what you can get away with, actually. That's one of the things I say. Genes let us know what we can get away with and can't get away with. But the ultimate outcome of our health is majority has to do with what's called the epigenetics. And the study of nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics is the effect that diet and lifestyle have on your genes and the information that you can get from your genes that can inform you about the best diet and lifestyle approaches for you. Now, if that doesn't sound good to you, then go ahead and find another video to watch. But for me and for the people I work with, that's a relief because my mom died at age 56, dropped dead of a sudden heart attack. My dad followed her 2 years later and he was only 64. My grandmother had her first heart attack at age 56. I have very few, if any, I don't actually have any older than me, very few older than me people who are still alive in my family. So I could be, oh my God, it's going to happen anytime now. I'm going to have the heart attack. I'm going to get cancer. I'm going to die young, just like all these other relatives. But the truth of the matter is, their lifestyles informed their outcomes. And my lifestyle is going to inform my outcome, unless, of course, I get hit by a bus. And of course, that's something that you can control by not going out and being around buses. But you know what I'm saying, that the diet and the lifestyle has a lot to do with the expression of your genes. So let's talk today about what exactly is nutrigenomics. You've heard that word tossed around. We're about to do a 3-day online live conference called Functional Nutrigenomics in Clinical Practice. It's intended for health practitioners who truly want to help people get well using the power of nutrigenomics and lab testing and understanding people's history and habits to help create personalized diet and lifestyle programs that help people to truly get well. So let's talk, what is nutrigenomics? So nutrigenomics is the study of how nutrition affects the genes, how the genes inform what the best nutrition should be. I personally like to use the word loosely to involve nutrition being anything that comes in and on the body. So it's not just the food we put into our mouths. It has to do with the environment. It has to do with what we listen to, what we're around. So it's really, really important, I believe, that we understand how nutrigenomics informs our health decisions, informs our choices. We all get choices every day. If you're a health practitioner, you get to help people to make better choices. If you're a person who has a body, which is everybody, including health practitioners, you get to make those choices about yourself. When I discovered or noticed many years ago, it was just around the time I was turning 30, I recognized that I had just gone through a major health crisis. And I was able to turn it around by changing my diet, by meditating, exercising, and all the things I never heard about when I was a kid. And when I turned my health around, I looked around and I realized that there weren't old people in my family, that I didn't know what the old people diseases were. I didn't know what my genetic tendencies were going to be. Why? Because there weren't any old people to watch. And that scared me. And I thought about what I had experienced in my 20s in terms of health challenges and what I might experience as I get older. And I said, no, I don't want any of that. So I made the decision long before the genetics project came in. The project for outlining and looking at the whole genome started in the 1990s. When I was looking at my own health, it was in the mid 80s. And I said, nope, I don't want to go down the path of not being around to see my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, should I be so fortunate to have them, of not being able to climb the stairs when I'm 75 years old, of not having the health and the vitality that I want and enjoy, and that I do still enjoy today. So I made the decision that I was going to learn everything I could about nutrition, about diet, about lifestyle, and I was going to make decisions that were going to help me to extend my life, that were going to help me to overcome some of these genetic tendencies. The genetic tendencies in my family tend to be diabetes, cancer, heart disease. Those are the main ones that we see, and we see them a fair amount. Those are all diseases that, yes, if you have a genetic tendency, you have to be more careful about the lifestyle choices, but they are all preventable and reversible. And that's the good news. So, what is nutrigenomics? Nutrigenomics is the study of how we can make choices every day, how you can inform your patients and your clients to make choices every day that help to optimize the genetic expression, not to make the genes that are not so good express themselves even more. Does that make sense? So that's what nutrigenomics is. And that's why we are teaching a 3-day online live event, because I want practitioners to know about this, to incorporate this into their practice, and for people to just know that there's things you can do, there's choices you can make every day. So an example, and I did a podcast. No, it wasn't a podcast. No, it was a webinar just last week on the genetics related to estrogen metabolism and how the choices we make can help prevent us from getting, protect us from getting some of those diseases that come from hormonal imbalance, estrogen dominance. And I went through some of these genes, and the genes that work at getting rid of toxic metabolites of estrogen are also genes that get rid of toxins in general in the body. They happen to be in the phase 1 of liver detoxification. And when I talk about these things, people say, well, breast cancer is in my family. Yeah, it's in my family too, but I don't want to get it. I don't intend to get it. So what can I do to protect myself from it? And what I can do is protect those detoxification pathways from interference. So if I have a pathway that detoxifies a metabolite of estrogen, what do I mean by metabolite? What I mean by metabolite is estrogen, when it's in the body and it's used, it goes through the liver and the liver breaks it down to eliminate the extra estrogen, the used up estrogen. And there are some specific metabolites, one called 4-hydroxyestrone, one called 16, one called 2-hydroxyestrone. One of them, the 2, is protective. The 4 is extremely dangerous and it can cause DNA damage. And the 16 is kind of in between. It has some good aspects, but it also has some dangerous aspects. If you want to know more about this, head over to my blog at drritamarie.com/blog. I went into real big detail about hormone metabolites. Very good, very scientific article if you're interested. So what do we do then? Well, if one of the toxins that is broken down by these same pathways that breaks down the toxic estrogen is related to an exposure that I have or a food I'm eating, how about if I delete that food from my diet and allow the body to focus on getting rid of the estrogen? You can't delete the estrogen. It's created by your body, but you can enhance your body's ability to get rid of it. So why don't we do that? So some of those things are, one is aflatoxin. That's going down those same pathways. Aflatoxin is a fungal toxin, and it's found on foods that create their own antifungals because they tend to get funguses growing on them. Peanuts, and some grains, when they sit in the silos and the places where they get stored, they can grow toxins, and they produce this toxin called aflatoxin. So we can avoid those. Heterocyclic amines, right? Heterocyclic hydrocarbons. Those are basically the byproducts of exhaust fumes from gasoline, and they're also from charbroiled meat. So those are things that we can eliminate or avoid. We can make sure that the cars are turned off when we're at the gas station filling our tank. We can make sure that when we get home and we've just driven the car, that when we close the garage door, we make sure that it's closed maybe 15, 20 minutes after we get home, to allow the fumes to escape outside rather than under the door and into our homes. We can avoid charbroiled meats, right? There's all these things that we can do to enhance the metabolism of estrogen. That's just one example. We have so many others. If you're interested in some of the more details about the estrogen metabolism, I have an awesome webinar that I did last week. And if you put a comment in down below, I'm happy to share the link to that. So many people have watched it. I had an unsolicited person on, I think it was on Facebook, who said, "Oh my God, I watched this and it is the best of all the trainings on estrogen I've done, and I've done a lot." I was very, very heartwarming for me to hear that, right? I want to help. So we want to make choices that don't interfere with other things happening in the body. We want to make choices that enhance our genetic predispositions, but don't stress our genetic predispositions. Another example I can use is MTHFR. You might have heard that. Sometimes people look at it and think you're cursing at them, but MTHFR is a short, a name of a gene, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, or methane tetrahydrofolate reductase, MTHFR for short. And what does that do? It allows the body to take folate from food or from supplements and convert it to the active form called methylfolate, which goes through some other pathways for detoxification in the liver, methylation, detoxifying hormones, detoxifying various chemicals in the environment, and helping to repair DNA. And also it's involved in the synthesis of red blood cells. So it's a very important pathway. But if someone has a genetic predisposition, a genetic variant, also we call them SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, when we have those, we want to be careful about not getting in the way of that pathway. We want to make sure that we're eating plenty of foods that are rich in folate so that it can overcome that problem. We maybe supplement, but I'm not a fan of, hey, you got this gene, you've got to supplement. It starts with lifestyle. And if you over supplement certain things, you can get people in trouble, right? So let's look at food first, lifestyle first choices. And I want that to feel empowering. I want you to feel empowered. I want your patients to feel empowered, right? So those are just some examples of how we can overcome the genetic variant that we find on testing with a lifestyle choice. Eat more leafy greens. Wow, that's pretty cool. Stay away from the toxins that are utilizing these detoxification pathways. There's a few others, and these are just a few of some of the genes that we'll be going into great detail about all the really important ones at our nutrigenomics workshop. And so check the links down below, and I'll give you, make sure that we put that in there. It's going to be a phenomenal workshop. So what else? There's genes that have a tendency to affect the absorption and the utilization of certain nutrients. So for example, if you have a genetic variant that is involved in the conversion from, say, beta carotene, which is mostly found in plant foods, and vitamin A, which is mostly found in animal foods or not found in many foods at all, then you would need to either take some of the vitamin A or just have more of those foods that have the beta carotene in it and flood the system, so that even if that gene is working inefficiently or that pathway is working inefficiently, you still can get good levels of vitamin A. So this is just a little example. So nutrigenomics, in summary, is the process by which we get to control the expression of the genes and get to create customized diet and lifestyle programs that help us to maximize genetic potential. That's what nutrigenomics is. It's a big old fancy word, and that's what it is. As a health practitioner, you need to know how to use it. You need to know how to test. You need to know how to combine it with other tests to see if the genes are expressing, and you need to know how to guide people to get their life back, to get their symptoms under control, to get their health back based on this. It is the measure. We need to take charge of our health by understanding what's going on, understanding where our tendencies lie, and then optimizing so those tendencies don't play out. In reality, probably, according to different scientists, different numbers, but probably 95% of all of this, the way that you manifest the conditions, the diseases, et cetera, the weaknesses, 95% have to do with epigenetic factors, the diet and lifestyle factors, and only maybe 5%. Now, some people might say it's 90-10, but there's a lot of variation between that. But nobody, I haven't read anybody that says it's any different than 85-15. So majority is under your control. It's under your patient's control. But as a health practitioner, you owe it to them to teach them what to do, to teach them the changes they need to make. Right? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me about, a relative who was having certain issues. And I said, if their doctor had told them the things that I'm telling them, would they have listened? Right? And it was a friend. It was a friend of my husband's, actually, and diabetic, not paying attention, eating a lot of grains and sugar, eating way too much meat. And we're scared for him. We're scared for him. Had his doctor been telling him, hey, you've got to change this way, change that way, change that way, would it make a difference? I believe it would, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching health and wellness practitioners. So nutrigenomics, wave of the future. It's not about getting a genetic test done and having some company tell you, here's the supplements you need to take. If it was that simple, it would be that simple. It's not that simple. It's a matter of you've got to make the changes. You've got to do the work. I always tell people, good health doesn't come in a bottle. You have to do the work. You have to make the choices. And it's, in our society, we always want the quick fix. But look around. Look at the cancer rates. Look at the heart disease rates. Look at the diabetes rates. I don't want to be a statistic, and I don't want you to be a statistic either. So if you go to nesliveconference.com, that will give you access to our event, our 3-day event. Be forewarned, it is designed for health and wellness practitioners. So it's sciencey and deep. If you happen to be a nutrition nerd and love that stuff, you are totally welcome to come. If you happen to be thinking that maybe I want a career in health and nutrition, then absolutely come. nesliveconference.com. And until next time, be unstoppable.